What draws people to a sports car race? Is it the roar of the engines? Or the smell of burning rubber? Is it the lively crowds? Or the tingle of excitement as the cars spin out? Whatever the reason, sports car races bring thrills and excitement to thousands of spectators each year. The one thing more exciting than watching a sports car race is actually being in one. Men and women with a flair for mechanics and a taste for speed find this a challenging form of sport. An avid enthusiast is Dave Wild of Pittsford, New York. Dave owns and races an Elva Courier, a British car that enjoys considerable popularity in amateur racing circles. The body is made of reinforced fiberglass over a tubular steel frame. The horizontal bar just behind the seat is called a roll bar, designed to protect the driver in case the car rolls over. In addition to the roll bar, a competition seat belt and harness is used, which keeps the driver in the car and reduces possible injuries. The instrument panel has all the gauges needed to tell the driver what his engine is doing. A tachometer indicates the engine speed in revs per minute, and a fire extinguisher is close at hand, just in case. Cars are grouped according to their engine size and performance. The EP stands for Class E Production and means that the car is basically stock but has certain allowed modifications. The Elva has the same BMC Type B engine that is used in the MGA, Magnette, Austin A55 and the Metropolitan. It is a 1489 cubic centimeter engine, or about 93 cubic inches in displacement, and in its present state of tune develops about 80 horsepower at 6,000 revs per minute. Between races, Dave, like others, spends most of his time getting his car ready for the next race. Occasionally an engine overhaul is necessary. Other minor repairs and adjustments are made, and they are all that will be required. The more important things, such as brakes and suspension members, get a thorough going over. These components are subject to great stress during a race and must be kept in tip-top shape. Because of the expense involved, many amateurs do most of their own mechanical work and restrict their racing to courses near home. Some competitors tow their cars to races on specially designed trailers. Others drive their cars to the race and tune them up at trackside. The first race of the season in western New York is held at Dunkirk. The course is laid out on an airstrip and is 1.7 miles long. The flat terrain and wide road make this an ideal course for the beginner to get the feel of racing, as well as let old-timers limber up for future events. Dave gets assistance in unloading his car from a young helper and pitman, Leo Rabb. Even though this is a regional affair, the crowds are out in large numbers. Dave's class is getting ready now. After one last check under the hood, Dave and Leo Rabb button things up. A few last words to the pit crew. They too get a workout here in preparation for bigger races. cars are lining up now. While they are doing so, pit crews are getting into position near the start-finish line. The race has started, and here they come at the end of the first lap. Uh-oh, looks as though Dave took that one a bit too fast. He's signaling to the other drivers that he will not attempt to change position. Coast clear. Here we go again. This race is 1/2 hour in length, which is equivalent to about 40 miles. Trophies will be given to winners of the first 3 places. Cars in Class E hit about 100 miles an hour on the long straight and average about 64 miles an hour over the entire course. The pit crews are busy trying to keep their drivers in the race. Here's an unlucky chap who seems to have engine trouble. Other crew members are busy with their stopwatches and chalkboards. Dave's wife, Barbara, records lap times. The race is over. The drivers are in the pit lane, and the pit crews return to the paddock area. Perhaps every driver in this part of the country looks forward to the national races at Watkins Glen, New York. These races are open to all SCCA drivers who hold a national competition license. The first thing to do upon reaching Watkins Glen is to check in at registration. The track is up in the hills a short distance from town. In past years, the races were actually run through the middle of town, but as interest spread and the crowds increased, a safer location was needed. Permanent buildings donated by industries such as the Ford Motor Company and Kendall Oil provide shelter for timers and announcers. The pits, empty now, will soon be filled with men and women involved in the job of aiding their drivers. Once at the track area, the car must be unloaded and subjected to a rigorous technical inspection. This is just one phase of the safety-conscious program that prevails at the Glen. Inside this modern building are facilities for checking over the major points on a car. All cars must pass this safety inspection before they can be admitted to the track. The last test is for uniform braking. The car is accelerated towards an inspector and the driver must apply his brakes while keeping his hands off the steering wheel. Uneven braking will cause the car to swerve and will be detected. The Elva passes with flying colors, and the label indicates that the car has passed and can be admitted to the track. After technical inspection, most drivers go into the paddock area to prepare their cars for practice. As you can see, a race car provides a rather bouncy ride at slow speeds. Everywhere, people are busy exchanging views, tuning their engines, working hard, getting ready for tomorrow's race. Practice counts quite a bit as it determines the driver's position on tomorrow's starting grid. Dave finds another Elva owner, Ted Rand of Chicago. Both are eager to compare notes. Before Dave gets out on the track, he installs a new set of spark plugs. The temperature range and gap setting of spark plugs are important if the engine is to function correctly at racing speeds. Another item to be checked is the setting of the twin carburetors. Although the major tune-up was done at home, a last-minute check is always wise. Finally, out on the track for some practice laps. The course at Watkins Glen is a paved track 2.3 miles long, shaped roughly like a teardrop. The races are run clockwise, unlike oval track racing. Practice laps are checked by timers in the Kendall Tower. The timers jot down the times the drivers make in each lap. These times determine the car's starting position in tomorrow's race. And now here's Dave to take you around the course.
We're on the back straight, approaching the big bend. Cut in towards the apex, let the car drift out a little bit. Accelerate. We're approaching the hard right turn. Brake, shift down in the third. Brake, shift down into second. Accelerate, shift up, acknowledge the pit signals, shift up again. Get ready for the crosswind, which is usually at the top of this hill. As we get onto Sterling Straight, we approach 100 miles an hour. It's time to relax, check the instruments, check the mirror. There's a Corvette moving up very fast in the rear. It'll probably get to us about the time we're in the chute. Brake, shift down, throw the rear end out in the other direction, accelerate, shift down into second gear, accelerate. There's the Corvette. Cut towards the apex of the turn, shift again, accelerate, back onto the back straight.
The excellent safety record at the Glen is due in part to the Race Communication Association, a group of volunteers who use flag signals to keep drivers informed of conditions. These men are kept in touch with one another by a telephone network. Central control is in the Kendall Tower. A green flag means the course is clear. The yellow flag warns the drivers of obstructions ahead and that they are to use caution. While the drivers are on the track practicing, the spectators begin to arrive. Many come up to the race area on Friday afternoon, pitch a tent, and make the weekend a fun-filled holiday. Practice runs are over, and things are quieting down trackside. The drivers return to the paddock area to evaluate their performance and try to improve things for tomorrow's race. During practice, Ted Rand's tailpipe fell off, and he just wants to repair it before tomorrow's competition. The activity switches now to the spectator area. Dave has parked the Elva near the tent for the night. and people set about preparing for supper. It's been a hard day for some, and it's early to bed. Others prepare to go into town for some fun. The race day dawns damp and drizzly. While Barbara Wild prepares breakfast at the tent, Dave is already in the paddock area working on the car. As the sun comes out and things warm up, the crowds begin to flood in. People are everywhere, looking for a good vantage point to see everything. Things get so packed within a short time that it's nearly impossible to get a good position trackside. People come from all over the country to see this annual event at Watkins Glen. Transportation here is not limited to automobiles. Some ambitious people here erect scaffolding in order to get a better view, while others climb trees and imitate monkeys. And these people are satisfied just to perch on top of their automobiles. The beginning of another race. Tough luck, and after all that detailed preparation. Races are being run today, from Volkswagen-powered Formula V cars up to high-powered, noisy Corvettes and modified cars. The pits are alive with activity as these men and women time their drivers and tend to their needs. The chalkboard tells the driver his lap times and also the lap number he is in. Many times the pitman will put down the driver's position also, so that the driver knows whether to push ahead or just maintain position. Now here's a pitman with ingenuity. His partner is at another part of the track with a two-way radio. He radios the driver's time to this man, and he can display them on the chalkboard when the driver passes the pits. Because of the shortness of the race, the pitmen do not have time to make extensive repairs. Most drivers realize that if they have to make a pit stop in a race of this length, they don't have much chance of regaining their position. Here's something unusual. The Triumphs seem to be having a bad day of it. Up at the chicane, this Porsche and a Morgan seem to be having a personal duel. Note the position now. The Morgan is behind the Porsche. Here are the same two cars again, but now the Morgan is ahead of the Porsche. Changeabouts like this are a part of what makes sport car races so interesting. Some spectators come to watch the races. Others come to watch the spectators, and there is quite a mixture of them too. Some take a breather from watching and search for refreshments, both the solid kind and the liquid variety. This little Mini Cooper is having a ball and doing quite well to boot. It's the only one of its type in this race. While the Mini and his competitors battle it out, Dave gets ready. His is the next race. The cars leave the paddock and assemble on the false grid, and some youngsters get a few photographs of the drivers. Well, looks as though our little Mini did all right for itself. The driver won the checkered flag for his class. Now the E production class gets a chance to run. The track stewards are lining the cars up at the start-finish line. First aid men pass among the drivers, checking that the drivers are belted in. All is in readiness now. All eyes are on the start-finish line. Well, almost all eyes. The green flag is down, and there they go. The cars are coming to the end of their first lap now. Dave's brother Ken waits eagerly for Dave to come around the hard right. Here he comes with a Sabra close at his heels. And there's Ted Rand just ahead of Dave in his Elva. "13 laps of this 22-lap race are over now. For most, things are going pretty well, but some are having mechanical problems and have to drop out. The ever-ready RCA men keep alert to the changing mood of the race as cars and drivers begin to show fatigue. The last lap, this is it. In a few seconds, the checkered flag will drop. And there's the flag. The race is over. And as the drivers come off the track, the pit crews pack up their chalkboards and tools and head back to the paddock. Back in the paddock, the drivers begin to unwind. And it's time to reflect on the day's event. The new gearbox, well, it worked fine. We still need to get the revs up on the straights, though. The day draws to a close as the spectators break camp and head for home. The men in the paddock still have work to do. There are cars to be loaded onto trailers. There are tools and parts to be loaded into trucks.
We had fun this year. Perhaps we can afford that racing camshaft for next season.